Okay, like I mentioned a while ago, I'm going to do a tournament of female superheroes in February and in March. And essentially, initially I said 2 hats, but I don't have hats, so I've got little bowls. So this bowl, I have my DC people, and in this bowl, my Marvel people. And pretty much they're going to be randomly selected out of the 4. So on the Marvel side, you have Rogue, Miss Marvel, Sif, and Valkyrie. And on the DC side, Wonder Woman, Supergirl, Power Girl, and Big Barda. So now, without looking, we'll see who's going to be the first person in our Marvel side of things. It's entirely random. Starting off with Miss Marvel. Yes, that is my handwriting. And Miss Marvel is taking on who? So probably one of the heavier hitters in the Marvel when it comes to women. She's taking on, just grab one, Big Barda. Okay, so quick background. Miss Marvel is essentially a Kree superwoman. So she actually has a high level of Kree training. You know, super speed, invulnerability, super strength. When she accesses her binary power, which I remember correctly is the power of a white dwarf star, she ends up having the ability of essentially controlling gravity and firing energy from her fingertips. That's who you have on one side. Probably the heaviest hitter on the female side for the Marvel Universe, next to some of the Asgardians. On the other side, you have Big Barda, a woman who was trained and handpicked by Granny Goodness to lead the Furies, which is the elite guard of Apocalypse, the planet Apocalypse. So the elite guard of Darkseid. This woman has actually fought to a standstill with Wonder Woman, and has also been barely beaten by Wonder Woman. So she has super strength, decent amount of speed, tremendous invulnerability. She flies using essentially the same sort of pod technology that you'd see Mr. Miracle use, who's also her husband. Flip dichotomy, he's kind of the weaker of the two, so it's kind of like she's the Superman and he's the Lois Lane. She also has what's called the Mega Rod, or Nega Rod, depending who's working on it, which has gravitational abilities as well as a really ridiculous blast. So for those of you not common to what is that I do in here, you essentially have 9 criteria. Intelligence, which in this case is intelligence, basic thought patterns, as well as experience. Fighting ability, strength, speed, durability, which you could also probably look at as kind of like stamina. Invulnerability, how well can you take a beating. Energy projection, versatility, and X-Factor. That's whatever is not covered. Pretty much whoever has the most by the end ends up being the winner. We're going to start off. Intelligence. You've got essentially a Kree-born super soldier who's also worked for the United States military versus somebody who pretty much has only known the pain and oppression of battling against that on the world of Apocalypse, as well as has a pretty decent understanding of New Genesis and Apocalypse technology. So, 4th world technology experience, and has spent like a whole life fighting, versus a ridiculously intelligent military officer who works hand in hand with the Avengers, therefore she has access to similar technology to what like Iron Man would use. Probably be a controversial pick, but I'm probably going to go with Big Barda on this one. Primarily more on the experience edge than anything else when it comes to being a fighter and engaging in these sorts of combats. She was brought up in the pits. Fighting ability. Kree, hand-picked elite Kree on one side versus the super elite of Darkseid. I'm gonna give fighting ability to Big Barda as well. Strength. Big Barda is like a step below Wonder Woman. I'm gonna give Miss Marvel the one when it comes to strength. I think Miss Marvel is probably a hair stronger than Big Barda. So if Big Barda is like a 9.5, Miss Marvel is like a 9.6. Speed. She's got a lot of great speed, but she can't fly. and she doesn't run like the Flash. Versus someone who has the ability of super speed as well as can fly. Durability. What is your stamina like? I'm going to give this one to Big Barda. Big Barda has said she's grown up in like gladiator combat. She does not know quit. She would pretty much die in a fight if she had to. Invulnerability. How well of a beating can you take? Big Barda wears Apocalyptian armor, which also enhances her strength a little bit. So she's got some toys that help her, versus if you're seeing Miss Marvel, she's kind of in a one-piece bathing suit, so it's all just her natural ability. Over time, armor can become damaged in battle, which is probably affecting her invulnerability. So I'm going to give this one to Miss Marvel. Energy projection. Okay, in this one, again, you've got the tech with the Negarod, which is a lot more powerful than the slight abilities we see Miss Marvel doing with Binary. Well, the thing I'll do is I'll give the raw energy projection to Big Barda because of the Negarod. And for versatility, which is the amount of different abilities you might actually have, I'm definitely giving that to Miss Marvel. So right now, we're actually fairly even. We're going down to that X Factor. And the one thing to the X Factor, I think, is probably going to go back to the Miss Marvel side, as well as her binary powers. Depending on who's writing her, she occasionally gets to have a greater degree of access to her binary powers. And if she gets a decent access to her binary powers, this fight's going to be pretty quick. You know, with light access to her powers, she has more range, and more range abilities than Big Barda does. Big Barda has a heavier hit when it comes to the Negarod. Or Mega Rod, depending on who you're reading. So I'm probably giving this one to Miss Marvel, based primarily off of the fact that if she accesses more of her binary powers, which she's been known to do from time to time, she hits a pretty close to like Phoenix level energy projection. Which, Big Barda, one of the toughest women in the DC universe, probably second only to someone like Wonder Woman. If she's got to take on somebody who's got her beat entirely at a range, and has got tremendous energy abilities, as well as speed to either keep the distance or close the distance in while constantly keeping a full focus attack on her the whole time, it's going to go to Miss Marvel. So the winner of the very first fight is Miss Marvel.